Right.
My brother, how's it going?
What's going on, bro?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Just trying to get set up here. How's your day?
Man, I can't complain. It was pretty smooth. How about you?
Yeah, man. I mean, they all start blend together at this point. It's hard to
Facts.
tell one day for another from
Right.
another. And it's like by the time we get to Friday, it's like you can't even really enjoy it because it's just another day.
Just another day at this
Can't do
point. Right.
anything, over the course of the weekend. So, but I'm making it. I'm good. Everybody in the family is healthy, so I'm good.
That's good to hear, man.
Good. Yeah, we're gonna give another minute or two for some more people to hop on. Um, while people are hopping on, this will definitely be posted to our IGTV and YouTube. And so just to let people know a little bit about who I am and what Grind the Grad is. My name is Fred Johnson. I work as a manager of college completion in New Orleans, Louisiana for Collegiate Academies. And pretty much my job is to help college students, black college students, graduate. I work with predominantly black students at predominantly black high schools. And so that's my job, helping with study skills, financial aid, do whatever needs to be done. And so I started Grind the Grad as a way to have more of an impact outside of the 200 or so students that I work with. It's just the things that I tell my students and the advice that I give them and the tools that I help them to use. I try to push that out through Grind the Grad and hoping to just continue to build that and have a larger impact. So part of what I wanted to kind of bring back is when I first started this about a year or so ago. Um, I wanted to interview recent college grads or soon to
Hmm.
be college grads because you've crossed that finish line, and so you know about all the struggle, all the mindsets, and all the things that go into being able to walk across that stage. And so
Right.
I want other black students to get an opportunity to hear those stories and hear those experiences and connect with them in a way that'll help them to push through those same tough moments. So tonight I have Lawrence Daniels, who's going to be a soon to be graduate of Southern University at New Orleans. And so tonight we're going to just chop it up and get an idea. So for anybody that's on right now, what I want y'all to do is make sure you go and share this live event with somebody that you know, share it with a few people so we can get people on, more people on. But we're gonna go ahead and kick things off. So Lawrence, I just want you to go ahead and first start off by just introducing yourself, your major, what school you go to, and maybe what you're looking forward to after graduation.
Okay. Well, first, my name is Lawrence Daniels. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I actually graduated from SUNO last year,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah,
All right.
I'm in graduate school right now. This program called Relay. I'm getting my master's in education, but my major was at SUNO. My major was psychology, and I had a minor in criminal justice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, Lawrence isn't too far removed, and again, we just like to interview college graduates, no matter how long it's been. So I'm glad we getting you because you'll be able to give some perspective into like what that grad life is
Right.
like. Too. I graduated from grad school in 2018 from the University of New Orleans, so I know for me it was a little bit of a culture shock when I first got started.
Hmm.
I was going to get my master's in higher ed administration, so we're gonna get to that in a little bit too. My first question for you is, how did you choose Suno? I'm sure there was a number of schools maybe you were looking at the
Yeah.
time. How did you choose Suno? What stuck out about Suno?
Um. Well, actually, Suno wasn't one of my original choices. I actually wanted to go up north to like these Division II schools in Delaware and play basketball, but um, around that time, I was having some family problems, and I just didn't want to go too far and like out of reach of them. So I stayed down here, and it just so happened that this man who was running this program at SUNO called the Honorary Program, he came to the high school I was at. I was at Sarah T. Reed. That's where I graduated from. I was at Sarah T. Reed, and yeah, it was 2012. It was 2012. That was the year I graduated. So he came in there. He told us about the program and how it stopped the prisoner pipeline thing, and it's to put men in the classrooms because the youth doesn't have many young black men to look up to and things like that. So I was like, sounds like a program I'm interested in. So I jumped on that, and that's how I got to SUNO.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm a former teacher. I taught for 3 years at Nakar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely know the value of having more black men in the classroom, because you particularly see black men in like a dean of students, disciplinarian
Right.
role. And not oftentimes you see them in the classroom. So, and I know about the honorary program, and I'm trying to do some things with them this year. So that's definitely cool. What made you settle on your major? Were you always did you graduate as an education major, or how did you decide on your major?
I first started off as a biology major. I had no interest in teaching at all. Like I did not like I was like, man, I'm not trying to teach no kids. I'm not trying to deal with no kids, nothing like that. But yeah, I was really into science in high school. So I'm thinking I'm gonna be into science when I get to college. Yeah, it was a completely different story. But at biology, like that was my culture shock. Like I just didn't get it. I didn't get biology, chemistry, none of that stuff. So I had took this psychology class my freshman year, and I was like really really interested in it, like the way the classes ran, the way the professor ran the class, the information I learned from the class. So I was like, maybe if I switch my major to psychology, then I'll be more interested in school because it got to a point where my grades started slipping because I just wasn't interested in the content that I was learning. So once I switched my major over to psychology, my grades came up a lot. I was a lot more invested in school at that point.
Man, me and you have similar stories because I started off as a pre-med bio major,
Hmm.
and that the sophomore level biochemistry, it killed me. It killed me. And like you said, for a minute I was kind of thinking like, man, I had a lot of negative self-talk. So like, I'm not smart enough to do
Hmm.
this. Like I can't hang. But I think a lot of it, and what I try to talk to my students about, a lot of it is where's your passion and purpose.
Right.
Because you will find things that are challenging if you invest in it, and like you're genuinely intrigued by it, then you're gonna push through that. And like you said, once I changed my major to education, grades went up. I was way more focused in classes. Everything was more relative.
Hmm.
So I want you to talk about that a little bit more. How did you feel as you were struggling in those classes, and what were kind of the thoughts that were going through your head? Did you have some of that negative self-talk, and then
Definitely, yeah.
when you made the decision, like what was that like?
Man, it got bad for me. I'm not gonna even lie. It got to the point where I thought about just dropping out of school and just trying to pick up a trade or something like that. I sat out of school for a semester just to get my mind right because it was just too much at the point. So once I made that final decision to just go ahead and go back, I was like, man, I looked at it like getting a tattoo. Like if I get the ink on me and the tattoo artist start on my arm, I'm not about to stop just because it hurts or just because it's some uncomfortable feeling. So I was like, let me just go back to school, refocus, and that's when I switched my major and everything and got my mind back on track.
How did you develop that mindset? Because again, our stories are similar. I also had to take a semester off. Mine was more so due to financial aid. I just had been in school so long, I
Hmm.
lost all my financial aid and had to drop out to save money to get back in. But I know a lot of students, for different reasons, right? Some academic, some financial, do
Hmm.
have to take time away from school, and sometimes you can get a taste of that life and money and the freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
And school can seem like a barrier to some of the short term goals. So I know you said there was a mindset of you starting what you finished,
Hmm.
but what else was it that made you say, you know what, I have to make sure I get that degree? However long it takes me to get back in school, I got to make sure I get back at it. What was that process like?
It was one thing, and it was a real powerful thing. It was the fact that I knew once I got that degree that I was gonna be the first person in my family to ever get a college degree. So I was like, I got to do it because nobody's ever set that standard or started that foundation or build up on. So I had to be the first person.
I have a lot of students that are first generation college students, and the question I ask them a lot is that pressure can be both motivating
Hmm.
and it can cripple you depending on how you internalize that. And so, for you, were there ever moments where that pressure felt too much to be the first?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, I find myself, and I've gotten better with it over the years, but I find myself being a real, being real self-pitying at times. So I come down real hard on myself at times, especially when I hit a bump in the road and I can't get over it the first, second, or third time, you know. So it definitely got to points where I was just like, I mean, I can't deal with it no more. So I got to take a step back. But it's always that I have to recharge, get that refocus, and get my mind back right so I can get to this goal. Because if I don't, then it's gonna be a lot of struggling going on in my family for a long time.
Yeah, that relentlessness, and I like how you constantly connected a short term action to a long term impact.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's hard to connect how showing up to a class or studying for a test or even making a decision to get back in school, how
Hmm.
that can impact you in the long term, especially for those larger goals. But you seem to always frequently make that connection. Was there anything, because I really think there are mindsets that have to be developed, again, relentlessness, just perseverance and determination. Did you have any routines and habits? I know for some people that's natural, but did you have anything that you did constantly or consistency to reset your mind to focus on those things? Because I find that if it's not an active process, it's just easy
Hmm.
to go with the flow or go through the motions.
Yeah. For me, it was reflecting. Every so often, I would reflect on what's going on in my life, what decisions I make, because ultimately, whatever transpires. I mean, don't get me wrong, things are gonna happen in your life that are out of your control, but ultimately, I feel like whatever transpires in your life, you kind of generated that energy through what you were doing at that time. So just reflecting on the things, the decisions I made, the moves I made, did I give this enough commitment? Did I give this enough attention? Just refocusing on just making sure my priorities are straight in another sense.
Yeah, the reflection part is huge, and I think again, what it sounds like came very naturally to you is not only did you reflect, but you made sure that action was taken after you reflected. So it's not just this is how I feel, I'm motivated, I have all these feelings,
Right.
but now I gotta start doing stuff different. I gotta
Hmm.
start behaving and acting different, and it sounds like that was a pretty frequent part of your process.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk about what was your biggest success? Obviously, graduating college was huge, so we're gonna kind of put that to the side for now. But I want you to kind of
Hmm.
think of something else. What would you consider as your biggest success that you accomplished in college?
Um, for me, all throughout my life, I never had bad grades in middle school and high school and things like that, but I never got a 4.0. Um, Spring 16, that semester I got a 4.0. I was part-time, I only had three classes. I wasn't a full-time student, but getting that 4.0 was a big thing for me. Another thing was getting into Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. That was another big thing for me because I always look for that, that brotherhood. I was raised by all women. I never really had my dad in my life. My brother, my brother was in my life when I was younger, but like once he's like 10 years older than me, so he graduated and like went on with his life and spread his wings when I was really young. So I never had that real brotherhood, aside from a few close friends that I look at as families. But accomplishing that was a big thing for me too.
Yeah, two things that stuck out. Obviously, for y'all that don't know, we're both men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, so '06.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to all the bros on right now. But one thing you talked about getting that 4.0.
Hmm.
And I know, especially depending on your major, sometimes there's not a drive to get a 4.0. And I'm constantly trying to talk to students about the differences in your work ethic and your schedule and the things that you have to sacrifice to get good grades. So can you talk about um, what are the things that you had to do consistently? What are some of the things maybe you had to overcome or shift in your habits and
Hmm.
mindsets to be able to get that 4.0? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Around that time, like I said, it was spring 16. I was about 22 at the time, so I'm going to all the college parties. I'm going to the kickbacks. I'm worrying about all the girls and all the things that really don't matter. And I said to myself, because that was the semester I had to bring my GPA up so that I could eventually, get an opportunity to get to be an alpha. So I'm like, man, I gotta if I want this, I have to stop doing things that hasn't gotten me this before. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So I'm like, I have to stop going to parties. I have to focus more on studying. I have to be more um be more mindful of the time that I use and things like that. So once I made that shift, it was it was easy to get the 4.0. It was more harder to change my mindset to get the 4.0.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's. I like how you talked about there were things you had to cut out. I think, and I try to. I read this book. Now I can't think of the name of it, but it's by Darren Hardy. It'll pop in my head, but he pretty much talked about when people want to be more productive or reach their goals, it's actually more about cutting out activities that aren't productive rather than
Mm-hmm.
starting new habits. So I like that you actually named that, and that was like the key for you. And that it was more about shifting the mindsets. I think
Mm-hmm.
another important piece about what you said was you had a goal that was worth those sacrifices.
Yes.
And I try to tell students this as much as possible, but sometimes you just have to get to a point in life where the thing that you want, you're willing to do or go through or sacrifice certain things. And so, like for some people, you have to bomb that first semester in order to
Yep.
have that wake up call, or you have to have financial aid or something else on the line. But once it
Mm-hmm.
matters enough to you, it is actually very easy to change the habits. Like you said, it's just like that mindset piece is important.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Greek life a little bit. Of course, we can't end this without talking about Greek life.
Facts.
But first of all, a lot of students come out of high school not knowing anything about Greek life, and then you have a lot of once they make it on the college campus, they either don't know to look for it or they just go about it the wrong way. So, can you talk a little bit about your journey? How did you get interested? Why
Mm-hmm.
did you choose Alpha Phi Alpha? And then what are some tips you would give to somebody on a college campus that's interested in joining a fraternity or sorority?
Um, for me, I was first introduced to Greek life my junior year in high school. I had a friend who I played basketball with my sophomore year, and he had my sophomore year was his senior year, so he went graduated, went to UL, and he crossed Kappa. So I believe it was for homecoming out there at UL that year. So I went out there with him for a party, and he was strolling and all them type of things like that. The girls was all on him and stuff. So I'm 17 years old. I'm like, man, this is like something I definitely want to do with it. What I'm saying? If it get you girls, but I never really looked into it too much after that during while I was still in high school, like my senior year, because I was more focused on basketball than anything. So coming into Suno, um, still in all, I didn't. Wait, let me backtrack a little bit. So my senior year, we had a college tour field trip, right? So we went to Talladega, and there was a not a yard show, but it was like all the Greeks was doing something on the yard that day, and it was all the Sigmas, all the Kappas, all the Qs, all the sororities, but it was only one Alpha. So all of them did their thing or whatever, and the one Alpha by himself like killed everybody, had the gym going crazy. So I was like, man, if I do go to college and mess with something like this Greek stuff, I definitely won't mess with that because whoever made him like that got it. You know what I'm saying? That look like something that look like me. You know what I mean? So I got to Suno, still didn't know too much about it. And I started going to parties on campus. So when I seen this is my first time really seeing, aside from the Talladega field trip, this is my first time really seeing Alpha Stroll, like Sigmas and Qs, like other fraternities aside from Kappas. So the first thing I did, and I wouldn't say it was the wrong move. I think it's like a more natural instinct move. Is you look for which one is gonna fit you. You know, once I figured which ones wouldn't fit me, I knew Sigma wouldn't fit me for certain reasons. Q and Kappa wouldn't fit me for certain reasons as well. So I looked into Alpha, and I learned that it wasn't with Alpha. Don't get me wrong, there were famous dudes in Alpha dealing with sports, but it was more so dealing with activism and leading the youth and changing the community and things like that. And I wanted to be a part of that type of situation, especially seeing brothers like Martin Luther King and W.B. Du Bois and things like that. So once I made the decision that this is what I wanted to be, um, I I was already cool with one of the brothers that was already on campus. So I pulled him to the side and had a private conversation with him, and he led me in the right direction. And thankfully, I got to see the light. But the advice that I would give to interests that were on campus and wanted to seek Alpha at any organization, females too or sororities, just be genuine and be yourself. Do your research before you talk to somebody in the organization, because they may ask you a question, or it may come off disrespectful if you just want to join because you want to stroll, or because that was all the reason that I wanted to do it at first, because it looked fun before I really understood what it was really about and what was the bigger picture of the situation. So yeah, just I would say do your research, find out what really fits you, what you really want to get interested in, and understand that it's not a destination, that it's a journey. Once you get in it, it doesn't just stop and it's like, hey, I have these letters on my chest. No, you have to uphold those letters. You have to keep on carrying on those letters.
Yeah, making sure your values align with that of the organization are so important. I think aspirants should treat joining a D9 organization, or like you said, any organization, treat it like you were going on a job interview, right? What, like you said, do your research. Would you just want to walk into any job and they ask you a question and you not know anything about that
Yeah,
business?
yeah.
How do you carry yourself, right?
Hmm.
There's businesses now. I mean, everybody does it now. They pay people to go through your entire social media and Google you and kind of just judge your character from that. Think about what things are you bringing to the table. I think in the same respect, um, what things can you get from the organization, right? What is the
Right.
value add? What can you get? And so by doing your research, you can kind of know what are the opportunities to develop your leadership. And that
Hmm.
was the same story for me. I mean, and nothing against the other organizations, the other fraternities, but when you look at the legacy of Alpha Phi Alpha and you see the shoes that need
It's
to be
different.
filled and the
It's different.
impact
It's
that
different.
alphas have had on the direction of American history, it's like
Hmm.
that's something I want to aspire to, and so it was a no brainer at
Right.
that point. Um, so yeah, that's definitely great advice for anybody looking to it. How would you say Alpha has shaped your mindset in your leadership and helped your development to the point to where you are now?
That's a great question, bro. I would say it's helped me be a lot more patient. It's gotten me connected with so many different people, so many different viewpoints. It's helped me just look at, just slow my mindset down a little bit and just look at things from, you know, one, two, three different perspectives if I have to. Understanding that my way isn't the only way. In an organization like Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, you dealing with a whole bunch of alpha males, so you basically dealing with a whole bunch of men who think that they're right all the time. You have to right, you have to be able to distinguish, what, even though your idea or whatever you're going with isn't necessarily wrong, it may not be the best way. So you have to be able to know when to be submissive to certain situations and things like that. It's just giving me a slower outlook on life.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely. I think that's one of the more motivating points to me. Like, anytime you step in a room, particularly at Alphas, but you can say this about all the organizations, that you're probably not going to be the smartest person in the room. You're going to be
Hmm.
in a room with a lot of ambitious individuals, and so you're going to be motivated by that, and you're going to have the opportunity to get mentorship and get help getting to the point to where you want to be. But if nothing else, you're going to have that positive peer pressure to achieve.
Hmm.
So I definitely, for anybody that's ambitious, that wants to have an impact on their community, give back, mentor, be mentored, I think a D9 organization is definitely a place you should look. Um, Another question for you is, obviously you have a lot of students right now that are struggling with COVID-19 and classes being online and everything like that.
Hmm.
Um, I guess, how have you kind of shifted and adjusted to that, and what advice would you have for a student right now who's just struggling with doing what they need to do with their online classes?
And that's an interesting question because I'm a teacher right now. So not only am I in graduate school taking online classes. I'm teaching online also with my fourth grade math students. So man, it's tough to keep that focus and that same motivation without your professors or your teachers holding you accountable face to face. You know, once this whole thing happened and they told us that we would have to start using Google Classroom and things like that. I knew it would be tough to get students to do their work because I'm in fourth grade. I'm 9 years old. I'm not worried about no homework. If I have to see the teachers the next day, you know what I mean. So me not having to have that accountability 5 days out of the week is gonna eventually slow me down. So I've had to really, buckle down, make sure I stay in contact with my professors. If I do happen to turn in a late assignment or get any upcoming information, I've been, reaching out to parents, making sure they're updated on everything. I've helped students who didn't have laptops get laptops and, internet access so they could do their assignments and, things like that, stay on top of things. But the only advice I could say in this time is to stay focused and no matter what, don't lose that motivation because it's real easy to right now.
Yeah, staying focused is key. Whatever you need to do to stay focused, that could be like reflecting every morning. That could be giving
Hmm.
yourself a schedule, a checklist. Like you really want to shoot for consistency and staying focused right now, keeping your brain engaged. And even though it
Definitely.
is tough, just know that the more you make that a habit and a routine, it'll just become a way of life. Till we can
Another
get.
thing, I'm sorry to
Hmm.
cut you off, bro.
No, go ahead.
Another thing I would say right now is to try to set some type of goal in this time that we have this downtime. Whether it be working out or you know, um, figuring out a new yoga pose or hitting a mile or riding your bike or whatever the case may be. Just try to hit a new goal and try to become better in this time that we have this downtime.
Yeah, I saw a post on Instagram and it had a few different reactions to it. And essentially what it said is if you don't come up during this time and you're just lazy, and I
Hmm.
understand not everybody is in a financial position to take advantage
Right.
of this time, but I think everybody could grow mentally. And so you're right.
Definitely.
Take time to learn something new, develop a new skill, do something. Like everybody can
Definitely.
come out of this better. And so I really appreciate you saying that.
Hmm.
Um, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and like you said, you were the first in your family to graduate. You were able to kind of turn that into like intrinsic motivation and use it in a positive
Hmm.
situation. Also, like you didn't, and I'm assuming you didn't have anybody in your family to kind of show you what to do in
Right.
terms of like going from high school to college. So
Hmm.
how did you navigate that transition, not having somebody in your family to show you, and kind of like did you have any hesitations about going to college? Just how did you navigate that whole process?
I didn't have any hesitations going to college. I always knew I would because my mom always pushed me to go to college. My mom always drove into my head that I would be the first person in this family to go to college. Um, I think that came from her going to she started college but she didn't finish. So I think that she wanted to instill that in me that once I start college, don't give up. You know what I mean? Um, but early on, I actually lost my mother my first semester in college. So that's what took a lot of that motivation out of me. So I didn't they had I'm not gonna lie and say they didn't have any mentors trying to reach out to me, but in that time I was real, closed off from everybody and things like that. So once I got out of that mind state and kind of reshifted my focus, I started reaching out to my mentors on campus and Alpha's another thing that kind of helped me out in a major way with all the mentorship they have over there. So yeah, early on it was rough because I didn't take advantage of the mentorship that I could have. But once I did, I definitely saw what I'm saying the time that I wasted and not doing it
Mm.
definitely beneficial.
Hmm. And I know obviously everybody has different amounts of time that they need to grieve and kind of process. And I
Hmm.
know you said that was a time where you really needed to focus on yourself. Was
Yeah.
there anything that you did during that time to get through that? Because I have students who lose family members or are just going through different types of trauma or crisis. Were there
Hmm.
things that you did to just get through that, or was it just like it just needed time?
Yeah, I think losing somebody that's close to you is always gonna be one of those things to where it's never gonna not hurt. You just kind of get better at dealing with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, over time, it got a little bit easier to deal with day by day, and as I saw myself dealing with it easier, that gave me more confidence and more motivation to it.
Hmm.
Like once I started looking at it in such a negative way, I thought about what positive things my mother would have been telling me at that moment, or how she wouldn't have been proud of me for not being on top of my grades, because that was something that she was always on top of me about. You know what I mean? So yeah, once I reshifted my focus towards that, it was like, it was kind of like she was in my ear all the time, like, boy, you better be studying, you better be doing this, you better be doing that. You know what I mean?
A lot of things I'm noticing is that anytime you talk about a major shift or growth or
Hmm.
development that you experienced in college, it had to do with a shift in your mindset,
Yeah,
right? It had
definitely.
to do with something that you were thinking
Hmm.
positive, thinking about a good outcome. And
Yeah.
so, uh, and I guess I'm wondering, and I might have asked you this already, but is that something that happens naturally for you? Or I know you say you reflect a lot. Like
Yeah.
how do you get to that point to where it seems like that's a default for you. Let me take this negative thing that happens
Yeah.
and mentally I need to flip it. So like
Yeah.
how do you get to that point?
Uh, Man, growing up, it was basically I had to grow up real fast, like at a young age. So, um, being able to change my mindset it turned into something I had to be able to do. You know what I mean? To make a bad situation a light situation. Um, but just understanding that you can't do anything until you put it into your brain to do it. You know what I mean? A lot of times people don't understand why they can't shake bad habits and things like that, and it's because you haven't put it in your head that you need to shake that bad habit. It sounds and it is easy, but it's hard at the same time. You know what I mean? Because it just takes you doing it, like going to the gym. You just have to get there. Once you're there, you will do what you have to do. But it's all about getting there. Once you get it into your head that whatever you think is what you 90% of the time is going to manifest, because like I said before, it's things in life that we can't control, and that may alter it. But once life alters situations, you have to alter your way of thinking and shift it to make to where it's beneficial for you.
For sure. Like you said, it's an active thing that you have to do. Like you have to
Hmm.
commit energy and effort to thinking that way if that's not something that you've been conditioned or that comes naturally. I
Yeah.
want to switch gears a little bit. College, and I tell students this all the time too, college is supposed to be a fun experience. Like, yes, you want to do well academically, but I
Hmm.
think a lot of the value of going to college comes from the relationships that you build and the experiences that you have. So can you talk about either your most fun or most your funniest moment in college that you'll never forget?
Oh man. My funniest moment in college. That's I could think of a few. When I first got to Sumo, I was in the honor program, and I'm looking at the comments. I'm sorry. My girlfriend said meeting definitely the greatest moment in college is definitely meeting you, definitely. But the the funniest moment I would say was when I had curfew, and at curfew my freshman year at Suno, and I knew I wasn't gonna make it. So I texted one of my roommates and I told him to turn the shower on, so when coach come around and check all the rooms, that he would think I was in the shower. So I texting him, I'm like, yeah, just let me know when he come through, and just let me know if he fall for it or whatever. Just let me know what he say. So yeah, he told me he was there, and he was like, yeah, he came, he knocked on the door, and I told him he was in the shower, and he just left. I'm like, cool, like I got away with it. 30 seconds later, coach calling my phone. I'm like, man. So I answered the phone, and he was like, he called all of us son. That was his thing, of saying, son, what you doing? What you doing, son? What you doing? So he was like, son, where you at? I'm like, I'm in the shower, coach. He was like, I don't hear no water. I'm like, I'm on my way to the apartments right now, coach. I'm on my way. So I got in trouble for that. I mean, that was a real funny story. It wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny right now. Um, Another time I could think about. that was just fun was when the chapter out my chapter at Suno EU, we threw a spring fling last year around this time. And it was the first time that there was a party thrown at Suno at that certain location, and it was jumping. Like we'll probably be doing it if it wasn't for all this Corona stuff, we'll probably be doing it right now. But yeah, man, that was like I said, that was the first time there was a party thrown at that location in like 6 years, and we just cut up, bro. It was crazy.
I know that was definitely some of my funnest moments is alpha parties. You
Hmm.
know, I'm not in those environments as much, but when I was in college, like to me that was like one of the biggest perks of being an alpha, because that's when they were throwing a lot of parties and just going to parties for free.
Hmm.
But there's nothing like a Greek party. So I feel you on that.
Yeah.
I know your girlfriend chimed in, and I for me and what my dad told me was that college is that time to find your soulmate. I mean, just keeping it 100, right?
Right.
That's that time to find somebody that not only you connect with mentally, but that
Hmm.
is also ambitious,
Hmm.
right? Because the pickings do get slim after you graduate, and it is tough to meet somebody with the same goals, with the same mindsets, and with the same values. So, can you kind of talk about how y'all met, and then any advice for college students who who kind of just need to move through those waters a little bit smarter than what they're moving. We'll just kind of leave it at that.
um, it's actually a funny story how we met. I've actually been knowing her since I was about. She's a year older than me, so I was about 7 and she was like 8. So we was real young. Our families knew each other, so that's how I knew her. But we hated each other, bro. When I tell you, like we hated each other. We used to always curse each other out and stuff like that. I'm talking about like itty bitty kids. So, um, yeah, that's how I initially met her. We never went to the same school or anything like that. And of course, Katrina hit, and she went to Clinton. I went to Houston and things like that. But after all those years, we didn't see each other. I saw her. I was like I said, I went to Sarah T. Reed and I played basketball my senior year. She was going to Carver, and she was a cheerleader. So mind you, I to be like 17, 18 at this point. I haven't seen her since we was probably like 9, 10 years old. So when I saw her, I was like, she look a little different. She look good now. She ain't look like this when we was, you know what I'm saying? We was 8, 9 years old, but she looked good. So but that's all it was. Like I said, I never spoke to her. I didn't introduce myself or hey, you remember me or nothing like that. I just kind of left it as that thought in my head. Um, so once we got to Suno, um, she was a cheerleader at Suno as well, and that was my first time seeing her there. Um, so at that point, I'm saying the same thing to myself. I'm like, she really looked good now. Like, um, I was very attracted to her. You know what I mean? But we still never spoke to each other. We came into Suno at the same semester. It was fall 12. We never talked to each other 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We didn't talk to each other until she crossed as a Delta in spring 18. And I was like really shocked because I didn't think that was nothing that she was into. I mean, I knew she was a cheerleader, and that shocked me enough when I first saw it in high school because it's just things I didn't think. I had this perceived perception of her because we hate each other as kids. So I just thought that she was just this mean girl who wasn't social and things like that. So I was shocked that she became a Delta. So once I told her congratulations and things like that, um, we kind of would like dabble in each other's inboxes a little bit. Like I would say something on her stuff, she'd say something on my stuff and things like that. And after a while, we kind of formed this real good, you know what I'm saying, this real good bond, this real good friendship. So it was obviously more than that, but we didn't want to at the time we didn't want to make something too big, and we were still trying to get to know each other. So even though people were saying like, "Oh, y'all together," and I know y'all talk and things like that, we were just saying that we were best friends because that was the vibe that was that was made from the bond that we made or whatever. So fast forward, we ended up having a beautiful baby boy. We are in a very happy relationship right now. But we definitely and I think this is more so because we're both the same zodiac sign, both Pisces. We're both kind of hot headed at times. She's a lot more outspoken than me, so she's snapping. She's a firecracker. You know what I'm saying? So don't get me wrong. It's a lot of times where she want to rip my head off and vice versa. But we always make sure that we try our best to come back to that medium. You know, it's gonna be times that we disagree. It's gonna be times that we don't see eye to eye, and that's what's normal. You feel what I'm saying? But it all goes about how you handle those disagreements and those times where the times aren't so good and things like that. So that's the advice I would have to. There she go right there. But yeah, that's the advice. That's the advice I would give somebody that's in college looking for, thinking about love in any type of way or just relationships. Period. Just understand understand that people are gonna make mistakes. People aren't gonna see eye to eye. You just always have to make sure that y'all come to that medium.
Yeah,
Brother.
I think the communication is key. Like you said,
Yeah.
keep it respectful, keep it
Hmm.
honest, but you also have to stay open minded and be willing to take criticism. Right?
Yep.
Just know that whatever that person's perception is their
Yep.
reality. So whether you intended something or not, if that's how they feel, that's how they feel, and you have to take that lesson and say,
Yep.
you know what, I need to get better because I
Yep.
never want this person to feel this way. I don't want this unintended
Hmm.
feeling or perception about me
Definitely.
or my behavior. So
Definitely.
I definitely agree with you. And my wife is a Delta, so I understand the impact,
Man,
the
they
effect
so
that Delta
aggressive,
women
bro.
can
They
have.
so aggressive. They're so aggressive.
Yeah, my wife got a little crazy in her too. So I feel you on that one. I want to talk about grad school just a little bit. How long have you been in grad school?
This is my second semester right here.
Second semester.
Hmm.
And I remember for me the jump from what was expected of me in college and as an undergrad and
Hmm.
as a graduate student were different. I really struggled my first semester. Um, One, what was your reason for going to get your master's, and then what has been the biggest adjustment? What has been the biggest jump from being an undergrad to being a graduate student?
Um, I would say my biggest push, my biggest drive to become to go on to pursue my masters was kind of like what I said earlier, that just that don't stop. Make sure you set the foundation. Make sure you set the bar high for your family, because now I have a two little ones coming up under me, so they have to be willing. They have to look at somebody and be like, dang, I see he did this, that, and that. I want to do that times two or that times five or whatever the case may be. Yeah, but just making sure that I set the bar very, very high for the ones that's coming behind me. And what was your other question?
It was what has been the hardest transition from being an undergraduate to now being
Hmm.
a
Okay.
grad student? Because I know the expectations are a little different.
Yeah, the
Uh,
expectations are a lot
yeah,
higher. It's not the same leniency. I think that was the biggest adjustment for me. It was times in undergrad you kind of slack off and then kind of catch up in the middle, or kind of catch up at the end of the semester. Some professors might look out for you depending on the relationship you have with them. With grads, is not so much. They not worrying about all that. It's kind of like you gotta buckle down. Like you was in big boy school at first, but now you in big boy school. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, you gotta buckle down a lot more. It's not gonna be that same leniency. The teachers aren't, and I don't want to say they don't care, because they do. It's just they have to prepare you for what's real. It's gonna be a lot of situations where somebody doesn't care what happened in your life. Life is gonna happen. It's not gonna stop because it got a little rough for you at a point. So you gotta make sure you buckle down and make sure you try to minimize the situations where you need a little leniency and things like that, and just be on top of things.
yeah. For me, it was you're right. They're definitely not lenient. It's kind of like this is what it is. Get
Yeah.
it done. For me, the biggest adjustment was getting used to how much reading that you have to do in grad school, because it's like you got chapters, you got articles, and
Hmm.
then also I went to get my master's in higher education
Hmm.
administration, and so just the writing a paper was a struggle for me because once I changed my major to education as an undergrad, we didn't have to write papers. We just did lesson plans, like we
Right.
did projects,
Hmm.
and so writing a college level paper and learning how to be a good academic writer was tough for me. So I guess for you, how have you overcome, or what skills have you had to get better at, and then how have you gotten better at those skills?
For me, I'm in grad school for education, and the way it's set up is kind of like you have to, of course, it's to get you to be the most effective teacher that you can be. With us being first year, with me being a first year teacher, so the most awkward thing for me was teaching in front of my peers because we have a lot of deliberate practice where we teach in front of the whole class as if it's our. So basically, I would be teaching in front of a class of my peers as if they were my fourth grade class, and that was so weird for me to do because one, I've never really taught before, so I don't know the different ways to go into questions, the different ways to get objectives or key points across and things like that. Pacing, all those types of things play a huge part. Let me just stop and say that I'm so sorry to all my teachers that I gave a hard time to in elementary school because this stuff is not a joke. It's not. It's so much that goes into it behind the scenes that teachers really don't get compensated for. They don't get credit for. They don't get the respect for. To be honest. So yeah, but to go back to what I was saying, the hardest thing for me to do was to be able to teach in front of my peers. That was real hard. But now it's that was last semester. Now it's it don't take an alpha man too long to get used to nothing. So I'm
Exactly.
good now.
Exactly. Yeah, I know a lot of parents right now are really understanding what it's
Oh
like to be
yeah.
a teacher, having to teach from home.
Oh
And
yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna just keep it 100. Like I know before this, if your kid was failing or struggling, it's very easy to blame the teacher and what the school not doing and what the teacher not doing.
Hmm.
And now people are really getting to see like it takes a lot. I think teaching is the hardest job out there. Not only do you have to command the classroom and like literally teach the skill or the
Hmm.
objective, but you have to be the social worker. You might be somebody's mom, dad, psychologist, mentor.
Yes, sir.
There's so many hats that
Hmm.
teachers wear, and the greatest teachers, like you say, they put in work outside the classroom. They pay they take money out of their pocket when they
Hmm.
don't have to do. They're not being reimbursed for these things, and so they're investing in the lives of young people every single day, and they take on that same trauma and that those same emotions that kids are going through. And so I think there's no harder job than teachers. I want you to now speak a little bit about the professional side. When I graduated and started teaching, I thought I was a leader and I thought I was very professional. And then once I started teaching, there was just a lot of things professionally that I had to grow. So, what has it been like since you graduated in terms of being a professional? Being a teacher and really trying to get better at your craft.
Um, Man, you asking some real good questions, man. You asking some real good questions, bro. I would say for me, and this is not to brag in any way, but I'm usually, and this has been how it's been for the bulk of my life. Um, Anything I pretty much set my mind out to do, I wind up being good at because I devote myself to it. So I usually don't really need coaching, so to speak. Once I put my mind to something. With teaching, I didn't realize how much coaching I would need. You know what I mean? I had to. It's one of those situations where I have a lead teacher, and I'm in the class and I lead teach for a period of time, but this is ultimately her class. She's been teaching for some odd years. She's pretty much a veteran in this situation. So um, me just being just having to shift my mindset and think like, yes, I'm a teacher and I have to get these kids to get this certain content or teach them these certain life lessons, but ultimately I'm still a student at the same time because I'm learning how to be an effective teacher. And not only that, this person who's quote unquote coaching me, she can only teach me what she knows or how she teaches. So I have to take that and tweak it to what fits me. She's not stopping me and changing what I'm doing because she's trying to step on my toes or undermine my authority. She's just teaching me what she knows works best for her. Now, if that doesn't work best for me, like I said before, I can tweak it and do all those types of things. But it's just having the mind, the open mindedness. Like I have to learn, even though I'm supposed to be teaching right now. I have to learn at the same time.
You just named something that I think is like the biggest piece of advice that anybody graduating this semester, or really anybody out in the workforce right now. I think the first thing is you gotta latch on or get a mentor
Hmm.
who is good at what they do, that does what you do. So somebody at work who is high performing, who can kind
Hmm.
of teach you what they do. And essentially you have a coach, right? You have a coach
Yes.
I think the second part of that, and this was more important, and I didn't realize this until I got the job that I have now. Nobody is responsible for your growth as a professional. And
Boom.
so you can't blame your coach, you can't blame your school, you can't blame your organization for not providing you professional development opportunities or making
Mm-hmm.
sure you get better. You have to invest in yourself, and you
Yep.
have to make a decision about where do I want to be professionally, and what skills do I need to become better at, and then you have to go get it done. You have to go get it done. And
Yeah.
for a while, I used to just blame, like, where they're only coming and observing me like once a month or once a quarter. That's
Yeah.
why I'm not getting better. When really it was, I wasn't asking people to come into my classroom. I wasn't reading any books on how to become a better teacher. I wasn't investing in myself.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can invest in myself, I'm my own reason. Like, I'm holding myself back.
Right.
For any future educators out there, you have to read First Days of School by Harry Wong. That book, I don't know if you've read it, Lawrence, but
I haven't
that
read it.
book, you got to read it. That changed the game. That changed the game for me. I think he has like a few editions,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely read the second edition, First Days of School by Harry Wong. It is going to change the game for you. My last question for you is, if somebody was writing a book about your college experience, what would be the title and why?
uh, if somebody's writing a book from my college experience, um, the title would be "School Days Last," but they wait, no, wait. Let me change it up.
Take your time. Take your time.
Change it
Take your
up.
time.
If
Yeah, this is a tough one because you kind of
this
gotta,
is,
you're thinking about all the experiences, all the things you've learned, all the
yeah,
fun you've had,
yeah. I don't
and
want to just
I
make the
gotta sum
title
that
of
up in one
right.
title.
Yeah, but she said I'm taking too long. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to make it real smooth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
because
butter.
look, it's the book. It's the first book about your experience.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure it's a good one.
Um. Lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Life lessons. That's what I would call it. Life lessons.
Yeah, for sure. And why life lessons?
Because like I said, I I give the time I spent in college a lot of credit to the growth, a lot of credit to my mindset changing. Like I said, I met a lot of people. I did a lot of things. I accomplished things that nobody in my family ever did. And don't get me wrong, I had a lot of down moments. I had a lot of times I had to put myself out of dark places. I learned a lot of lessons during that time. So I would call it life lessons.
Cool. Cool. Somebody in the comments was asking what the name of the book was. First Days of School by Harry Wong. I'm gonna post it to the Grind the Grad account. Anybody that's in education, you gotta read that book. You gotta read that book. I want to kind of just thank you again for taking some time out. I want to plug a few things before I let y'all go. So first thing, for anybody that's graduating high school or college, Grind the Grad is going to be doing a virtual graduation party. So the flyer is going to drop this week. I wanted to do something to kind of bring some joy to people's May, because we know that graduations and a lot of things that people would have been celebrating around this time are being taken away. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be doing that. So if you know somebody that's graduating, definitely share that with them. Also, I'm looking for some social media interns. There's a lot of content that I want to put out on Grind the Grad, and so I'm looking for some people who are pretty creative and want to help impact Black students in a positive way. To do that, this interview is going to be posted to our YouTube channel and our IGTV. And so what I want y'all to do is help to share Lawrence's story and experiences, because he dropped a lot of nuggets. Like, you might as well start writing that book, Life Lessons, today, because a lot of people can learn from that. And so again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody logging on, and we're gonna keep this thing going. Definitely continue to take care of yourself, Lawrence. Stay safe, and
You do the
definitely
same, man.
continue to make a positive
I
impact on
appreciate
it.
I appreciate the opportunity, bro. What you're doing is amazing, man. We need more and more people just like you trying to fight for that same cause. I couldn't be more appreciated, bro. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. All right, y'all. Have a good night and take it easy.
All right.